Your Farm Business Podcast with Mike Krause of P2P Agri.
I'd like to just introduce Peter Aikman to Your Farm Business. Peter, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Mike. Good to be here.
Peter's got a great background in that he started his agricultural career, I guess, at Dookie, doing a agricultural degree there, and then he took off and as an agronomist for Elders, and then worked for an accounting firm out of Swan Hill called Dodds and Medlin. And I guess it was about 10 years ago, Peter, I don't know, that you took over the family farm. And it's just, your story interests me because you've put it upon yourself to look at the farm, even though you're an agronomist background, to really put on the business hat and understand how farming works and the business side of things. But just to give us a bit of a background of your family farm and where it is, and from there, Peter.
So farming with my mother and father and wife Jane, children Evie and Macy. We're at Annuello, which is in the northwest of Victoria in the Mallee. We're a 100% cropping enterprise. And yeah, I've been home full-time since 2014. So that was a period where I'd been actively involved in the farm prior to that, more or less from the time I left school, really. I deferred for a year and worked full-time on the farm, thinking that that was going to be what I did for the rest of my life. And then decided, well, after a year on the farm, I should go and see what Dookie College has to offer. It actually took 14 years to come back. So I'm really glad I did go away and broaden my horizon. And probably the networks is the biggest thing about leaving the farm. The area I grew up for 14 years and the people you meet along the journey and the experiences and what you learn. But then certainly very happy that an opportunity come up to buy a farm not far from the family farm, so we could effectively double our area, which enabled me to come home full time. And yeah, that was 2014. So
now, back in 2014, you obviously had a motivation to understand business performance and how to manage the farm more from a business perspective. Where do you think that motivation came from?
I've always been a fairly analytical person, so I think I'll always think hard about the big decisions on the farm. And previously, I guess I had a series of spreadsheets. And when the potential to buy a new farm or a new machinery purchase come up, it was always a fair bit of deliberation and working out what was best. Everyone makes a decision, but I guess then I had been back on the farm for a couple of years and I was recommended to go to the Rabobank Executive Development Program. So that was a 2-week course over 2 years in Sydney. And I guess there was where I really did discover, we did a strategic plan at that meeting and you review your business. And I felt that we had a fairly good grasp of the agronomics and the operational side of the business, but really identified that financial literacy in the business and me as the manager now was probably the area that we had the least skill sets in. That's what started my journey to improve my knowledge. I guess we're all running fairly sizable assets now. There's not too many CEOs running multi-million-dollar businesses that haven't had any financial education. So that's when I decided I need to upskill myself.
Right. Then you got attracted to P2P Agri. What drew your interest to that?
So at the EDP in Sydney, there was a presenter talking about the importance of benchmarking and how you should have KPIs. And that was always something that I knew I should have. But after that, I set about creating my own benchmarks in a series of spreadsheets, which was fine. Had all my numbers, which was good, but I didn't have anyone to compare them with. I got some data out of different accounting firms. However, even that data was different to my data because I was creating my data from a production year, which in my farm's January to December. And a lot of the benchmarks that I was looking at were tax mitigated financial reports, which were in July. So yeah, I just kind of looked through what was out there. There's a lot of software that analyzed data. I guess P2P Agri I felt was a little bit different given that it was built by an economist yourself. So, which I guess from an agronomy background, a lot of the other software is intentionally built for resellers. Nothing wrong with that. We get gross margin information, but I guess your platform, we're getting, in my eyes, it's not at a paddock level. However, it's at an overall business level, isn't it? So we're capturing variable costs like you would in some of the other softwares, but we're capturing the overheads and the finance costs and your asset and liability. Just a totally different way of looking at it from some of the other software. So that's what drew me to to P2P. Certainly been happy with what it's been able to deliver for me.
Great. And Peter, you didn't stop there because you've adopted another principle that I find is really true, that the best way to learn something is actually to teach it. So you decided that you were going to expand out and not just collect data using the P2P Agri platform, but get another 5 or 6 key producers in the area and help them put their data together so that you could collectively come together. How have you found that experience?
So I guess that led on from what we were just discussing about, I've got my numbers, who do I compare them against? Yeah, so I thought, given that I've got all my numbers now in a professional software, there's no reason why I couldn't ask 4 or 5 people that I'd previously dealt with to wonder whether they were interested in collaborating their data and comparing and starting up we call it a P2P Agri discussion group. So I guess what we set out there was I just felt that I wanted to improve my knowledge. I wanted more confidence in my numbers. I wanted more accuracy, transparency with business partners, whether that be people in your business or your banks, and just to enjoy it. So that's what I set for myself. I put it out there to a few people that I thought might be interested, and we all sort of committed and said, yeah, well, this is a journey we want to be on. And yeah, it has been fascinating. So there's 4 Mallee guys and a farmer in the northeast. So we catch up a couple of times a year. And yeah, we're not competing. However, we are comparing and competing ourselves year on year, trying to improve our strategies and numbers. And then we're really just looking at other people's numbers and getting inspiration, I guess, from others. So I think as farmers, we spend a lot of time working by ourselves and thinking about things by ourselves. We just felt that this group has been a forum we can discuss potential strategies, potential things that we're looking at doing in our business with some like-minded people. And not that they're telling us what to do, but it's just sharing and giving opinions on each other's businesses and learning. That's what it's been about. We've all started from a fairly low base, and we're learning and improving our skill set. So I've really enjoyed the journey.
Fantastic. There's probably some key learnings that come out of that, but I guess to me, if you're sitting back and actually measuring a lot of these key performance indicators, that gives you then an ability to make decisions to see what can improve in there. Have you felt that the financial performance of the group is generally lifted over that period that you've been collecting the data and discussing things?
I think we've compared for 3 years. We've had this group going for 3 years now. So I don't know, I look at that information or the data pyramid, and you've got data at the bottom. So the first time we unrolled, we had a lot of data and very little conversation because we didn't have enough. The next step is information, isn't it? And then it's gain knowledge, and then it's make decisions. So how far we're through that? Look, I think the first year we had a lot of data. Then we set about getting more information around it because there are only numbers on a page. There's so much data in the world. It's like yield maps, isn't it? We've all got a lot of yield maps, but do we utilize that data? No, I don't. We had all this financial data, but we didn't have the information behind some of these other business, how they come about. So what we set up in these couple of discussion groups a year is let's talk about the individual talks about their business so we get more information about them. And then now we're getting to that knowledge stage saying, well, that's why that number's X or Y. And now starting to make some decisions. So look, I don't think the group automatically turned on a light switch, and I think the seasonal variabilities had as much to do with the financial performance than anything else. But I do know we know a lot more in this space. We've got a good network going there, and yeah, we're all inspired to continue to improve.
Great, Peter. The litmus test would be you've had a significant journey in this space and starting that farmer group. Would you do it again now that you know what you got out of it? And would you encourage others to look at your journey and see whether that might be useful for them?
I'm definitely glad I've done it. There's no doubt about that. I feel that we've all improved our knowledge in this space and those. Yeah, I'm not saying that it doesn't make decisions for you, but at least now we've got some really good data and we can run scenarios in P2P and know that you've still got to make that decision, but I feel what's measured is managed better, isn't it? So I would definitely recommend people with a passion in learning and upskilling themselves. Look, I don't think it's for everyone. Not everyone will have the discipline to keep good data and to proactively open up P2P once a month or once every couple of months to refresh and review. But for that person that's more similar to me, pretty analytical and enjoys that, or now enjoys spending time and looking at different scenarios and analysing the business, then for sure, I think it's a really good platform to improve your literacy, financial literacy.
Really been valuable getting into understanding what your journey's doing, and all the best as you continue to grow and make those decisions and the group continues to mature and assist each other. So thank you very much for your time, Peter. We really appreciated that.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks for developing the software to help us through our journey.